It's definitely one of those topics.
What if what you think of as reality isn't quite right?
Yeah.
What if your perception of the world, of time, life, even death, is more like a grand illusion your mind builds?
And then, on top of that massive idea, what if humanity is actually getting close to confronting true, literal immortality?
Exactly. So today we're diving deep into some really fascinating sources to unpack the nature of perception itself. How does this idea, this promise, or maybe peril of immortality shape how we see things?
And what kind of choices does that leave us with? Individually and, as a species, it's a lot to think about.
Absolutely. We'll be touching on neuroscience, some ancient philosophy, definitely dipping into Star Wars lore, which is always fun.
Oh, yeah.
And even looking at cutting-edge AI, the thread connecting it all seems to be that reality might be way more fluid than we think.
And our ideas about living forever, they're already being molded by our deepest beliefs and, frankly, our fears.
So yeah, get ready to maybe question a few things. Okay, let's start with this fundamental idea. The illusion of direct reality. We look at a table, we see a table, touch it, it feels solid. Seems simple.
Right, that's our everyday experience. We assume we're getting a direct feed from the world.
But what if that's not really how it works? What if our senses are just giving us clues, vague signs, as one source puts it?
Exactly. The neuroscience angle suggests our brain isn't just passively receiving data, it's actively inferring what's out there. It's making sense of incomplete information. It's a creation process.
It's a construction job, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And this bumps right up against our intuition. There's that great story, maybe true, maybe not, about the physicists.
Oh, I know the one you mean, the one who finally grasped that atoms aren't really solid.
Yes. And he was supposedly afraid to get out of bed because he thought he might fall right through the floor.
It sounds absurd on the surface, but it perfectly captures that disconnect, right? Between knowing something intellectually and feeling it.
Absolutely. Our common sense reality is like a user interface. Useful, but not the underlying code.
And the really wild thing is, that physicist wasn't entirely wrong to be apprehensive. You pointed out this material explaining touching.
Right, it's not like tiny billiard balls hitting each other. It's not physical contact in that way.
So what is it then?
It's actually the repulsion of electromagnetic forces. The electrons in your hand pushing against the electrons in the table. Different vibrations interacting.
Okay.
If that repulsion didn't happen, we actually would pass right through things.
Seriously.
Yeah. So thinking about objects as solid or hard is kind of missing the point. It's more accurate, though weird to say, to think of them as fast objects or slow objects based on their vibrational states.
That completely reframes how you think about, well, everything physical.
It really does. And this isn't just philosophical hand-waving. It connects directly to quantum mechanics.
Ah, okay, here we go.
Specifically, the Pauli exclusion principle. It's a fundamental rule.
Remind us what that says.
Basically, no two electrons can be in the exact same quantum state at the same time. They just refuse to share the same space and energy level.
Like tiny introverts at a party.
Kind of. So when you try to push matter together, the electrons resist being squashed into the same state. They push back.
And that's what creates solidity.
It creates this exclusion-based Pauli pressure, this resistance. That's the quantum mechanical reason you don't fall through the floor. It fundamentally challenges our everyday sense of solid.
Wow. Okay, so our brain's making its best guess based on these incredibly complex quantum dances and electromagnetic fields.
Exactly. But then it gets even trickier because our own minds, our expectations, our beliefs get mixed into the process.
Right, this idea that we often see what we expect to see.
Yeah, it begs the question, how much is truly out there and how much is us? Our prior knowledge, our expectations, they don't just add flavor. They seem to fundamentally alter what we perceive.
The brain's filling in the blanks to make a coherent story.
Constantly. Interpreting ambiguity to fit what it already thinks it knows. It's efficient, sure, but definitely subjective.
You see this so clearly with visual illusions, like that white triangle one.
The Kanisa triangle, yeah. There are no lines forming the triangle, but your brain just puts them there.
Because it's the simplest explanation for the Pac-Man shapes it's seeing.
Right, or the Miller-Lyer illusion with the lines and arrows. The lines are the same length, but the arrows make your brain infer depth, so they look different.
Your brain isn't just observing, it's constructing based on its internal rules.
And it's not just vision, auditory perception too, like hearing noise, just static.
Yeah.
Then someone tells you there's speech in it, maybe plays the clear version once. Suddenly you go back to the noisy version and you can hear the speech clearly.
Even though the sound itself hasn't changed at all.
Exactly. Your expectation, your prior knowledge, it just flips a switch in how you perceive the raw sound.
Ah.
Your internal model changed your external perception.
That connects to things like placebo effects too, right? The
Yeah.
source mentioned experiments.
Absolutely. People given something to make unpleasant pictures less worrying. Then later, they get a sugar pill, a placebo.
But they're told it's the same drug.
Right. And just believing it works makes them perceive the pictures as less disturbing. Their belief changes their actual emotional and perceptual experience.
And the magic glasses thing. Teaching people to see a cylinder rotate a certain way.
Yeah, same principle. They reported their sensation changing because their belief changed. It's like our minds can subtly rewrite reality in real time based on expectation.
Okay, so how does the brain manage this? How does it update its model?
That's where prediction error comes in. It's this crucial mechanism. Think of it as the difference between what the brain expects and what it actually gets from the senses.
Right.
When the prediction error is low, things are mostly as expected, then what we already know kind of shapes what we perceive. Things feel stable.
Makes sense.
But when prediction error is high, big mismatch, surprise, then what we perceive takes over and updates what we know. That's how we learn. High error drives learning and model updating.
So a surprise makes the brain go, okay, got to rethink this.
Exactly. It refines the internal model.
And this is where it gets
Yeah.
potentially quite serious, right? The link to psychosis.
Yeah, this is where it gets really profound and a bit unsettling. Significant disruptions in this prediction error signaling are linked to altered perceptions in conditions like psychosis.
How so?
The world can start to feel intensely novel, salient, or important, even ordinary things. This can lead people to find new, often inappropriate meanings in everyday events, forming delusions.
Because the filtering and prediction mechanism is off-kilter.
Precisely. It really highlights how much our perceived reality is this active, fragile construction. When the underlying prediction machinery falters, the experienced reality can change dramatically. Our brain is literally creating our world.
So if everyday reality is this filtered inference, this construction, are there ways to maybe, peek behind the curtain?
Well, that's where things get really interesting, and our material brings in the pretty provocative ideas of Terence McKenna.
All right, the ethnobotanist and mystic. He had some wild theories about psychedelics.
He certainly did. He argued that compounds like psilocybin and DMT weren't just messing with brain chemistry. He thought they granted access to, well, he called it a parallel continuum.
A parallel continuum, or even a higher spatial dimension.
Yes. He didn't see it as just hallucination. He saw it as revealing a holographic plenum of information that exists outside of our normal historical time.
So not just seeing weird stuff, but accessing something more real.
That was his claim, accessing the true real, a deeper layer of existence that our regular waking consciousness usually filters out for pragmatic reasons.
He even brought dreams into this, didn't he, as another way in?
He did. He saw dreams and psychedelic states as times when we're released into the real world and our waking world is just the surface.
That's a challenging thought. It implies our default state is inherently limited.
Like looking through a keyhole at a vast landscape, maybe. We only get these fuller glimpses occasionally. It makes you wonder what we're missing.
And what kind of information did he claim people access in these states? Not just patterns, right?
I know, far beyond that. He described encounters with immense amounts of information, vivid experiences of places, jungles, cities, machines, books, architectonic form of incredible complexity.
Wow.
And crucially, he claimed this visual information was often much more highly ordered than, say, the normal visual experience of the room he was in.
More ordered. That's counterintuitive.
It is. And he also said its meaning was purely beheld, without ambiguity. Like the information presented itself fully formed, no interpretation needed.
Which implies our normal perception is the filtered, simplified version.
That's the core idea. Psychedelics, in this view, might temporarily lift the filter, revealing a much denser, more complex, meaningful reality.
How does this connect with, physics? We kind of talked about light, right?
Yeah, he proposed this alternative physics of light that he felt was starting to impinge on reality. He pointed out that light photons have no antiparticle. He interpreted that as meaning no dualism in the world of light. It's unified. And critically, at the speed of light, time effectively stops. Light exists in an experience of time zero, eternity.
So light itself exists outside our linear perception of time and duality.
That's the idea. It suggests a fundamental reality that might be non-dual and timeless at its core.
You know, that resonates with the thought you brought up earlier about quantum entanglement processing.
Ah, yeah. Just thinking about how McKenna's holographic plenum, where information is interconnected outside of time, feels. Well, it feels like it echoes ideas from quantum physics.
Like entanglement, where things are connected instantly regardless of distance.
Exactly. If everything is fundamentally interconnected in this information field, maybe that's the true real he was talking about. It connects to ideas like Manly P. Hall's universal consciousness, too, this idea that individual consciousness is part of an eternal whole.
It suggests an underlying reality that's way more connected and timeless than our senses usually report. Okay, now here's a really fun thought experiment, one you actually sparked, relating to how our brain interprets things. The spoon reflection.
Ah, the spoon. Yeah.
So you look at the back of the spoon, you see yourself upside down, but our brain automatically flips it, right? So we perceive it correctly.
Right. It's one of those unconscious corrections our brain does constantly.
So the question you posed was, what if you were on, say, a heroic dose of psychedelics? Could that temporarily mess with those ingrained interpretive mechanisms?
Could it bypass the automatic flip?
Yeah. Could you potentially see the reflection the right way up as it appears on the spoon because your brain isn't doing its usual corrective filtering, perceiving the raw input more directly?
It's a fantastic question because it gets right to the core of perception as an act of construction. That flip is just one tiny example of countless inferences.
Useful, but not necessarily true to the raw data.
Exactly. Useful doesn't mean unfiltered. So if a psychedelic state could disrupt those fundamental interpretive habits, maybe you'd perceive things closer to the raw sensory input, or like McKenna suggested, tap into a different layer of reality altogether.
It really forces you to question if even basic perception is something our brain does, not something it just receives. Is there even a single, fixed, objective reality we all share when sober?
It throws that whole idea into doubt, doesn't it?
Okay, so from this idea of fluid, inferred perception, let's pivot to something huge, immortality, and specifically how we perceive it, even hypothetically.
Right, how our current mindset shapes our view of something so monumental.
Imagine that classic thought experiment from the sources. You find a weird, sparkling potion in an old attic. The label says, drink this, become irreversibly immortal, frozen at your current age, immune to disease, injury, lasting till the universe ends.
The big question, do you drink it?
Exactly. Would you take that sip?
And immediately you see how our perception of this is an inference, right? It's not a known quantity. We're filtering it through everything we believe, fear, and hope for.
What one person sees as the ultimate gift.
Another sees as an unimaginable nightmare. It's not just about the physical effect. It's about what we infer it would mean for our identity, our purpose. Our readiness, or lack thereof, completely shapes our perception.
And the material makes a strong case that immortality could be a curse, especially for someone who isn't ready for it, the unready self.
Absolutely. Look at the story of Abeloth from Star Wars. It's such a potent cautionary tale.
She was the mortal servant to the ones, right?
Yeah.
The super powerful immortals.
Yes, and she was terrified of aging, of being left behind. That fear drove her to do forbidden things, drinking from the font of power, bathing in the pool of knowledge.
Trying to lock in her place, avoid loss.
But instead of preserving her, it completely corrupted and twisted her, turned her into this dark, powerful, suffering entity.
And the terrible irony.
The ultimate irony. Her family, horrified, did abandon her. The very fate she tried to escape through immortality was brought about by her seeking it in that way. Her eternal life became this unending torment of loneliness and chaos.
A powerful story about seeking forever without understanding yourself first, leading to self-deception and ruin.
And you see echoes elsewhere in Star Wars, like Darth Nihilus. He's the embodiment of self-destruction through a twisted form of immortality.
He lost everything and just became hunger.
Exactly, an insatiable hunger for Force energy. The lore says he became more of a hole in the Force than a living thing, enslaved by this consuming void.
Gained power, but achieved
nothing but ruin. His existence was empty, a warning against seeking power that just devours you. His immortality was just prolonged agony.
Moving beyond fiction, there's a philosophical angle too, Kierkegaard.
Søren Kierkegaard, yes. He talked about despair that is unaware that it is despair. an incurable state where people live without real meaning, chasing human commodities, becoming like cleverly constructed automatons.
And for someone like that, immortality would be.
The ultimate horror, the hopelessness of not even being able to die, just endless, meaningless existence, a truly grim perception.
And then there's the boredom problem. Bernard Williams argued this.
Right. British ethicist Bernard Williams suggested that even if you could find things to do, an immortal life would eventually become unbearably boring, diminishing returns of pleasure.
So you'd have to constantly change yourself to avoid monotony.
Exactly, an ever-changing lifestyle. But Williams worried this constant reinvention could destabilize your core identity. You might feel like earlier versions of yourself have effectively died, replaced by someone totally different. Existential loss within immortality.
Which ties into the idea of temporal scarcity, doesn't it? From Samuel Scheffler.
Yes, Scheffler's point is powerful. He argues that knowing our time is limited, temporal scarcity is actually essential for us to value things. It forces us to prioritize, to make meaningful choices.
So if you remove that limit with immortality,
you might undermine the very possibility of a meaningful life. If time is infinite, does any single moment or choice truly matter in the same way? Our perception of time's limit shapes our perception of value.
okay, so that's a pretty strong case for the curse perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the flip side? Immortality as a blessing, as transcendence.
There's definitely a counter-narrative. And again, Star Wars offers a really interesting spiritual take with the Jedi.
There is no death, there is the Force.
Exactly. For them, death isn't an end. It's a transformation into the Force, merging with the universe's binding energy.
Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Yoda,
Uh,
they achieved this.
yes, and the path involves letting go of everything you fear to lose. Discouraging attachments, not out of coldness, but for the sake of this larger cosmic unity, this collective consciousness. It's about relinquishing the ego for something greater.
That resonates with Manly P. Hall's philosophy, too. The idea of universal consciousness.
Absolutely. Hall saw human consciousness as the most perfect symbol of the universal consciousness, arguing it's inherently immortal and indestructible.
If consciousness exists anywhere, it must exist everywhere.
That's his logic. Individual consciousness is just an expression of an eternal cosmic consciousness. So immortality isn't something you gain. It's a fundamental truth you realize. Our real purpose is already eternal in the divine mind, a very different perception.
And McKenna comes back here, too, with his hyperdimensional view.
Right. McKenna suggested we're hyperdimensional objects, just casting a shadow into matter, our physical bodies.
So at death, the shadow withdraws.
But the core hyperdimensional essence is unaffected. He even suggested that practices in life, like cultivating an after-death vehicle or light body, could strengthen the soul for a clean transition.
A transition into a higher dimension where linear time might not even apply, making you eternal.
Exactly. It's a perception of immortality as a natural return to a more fundamental, expansive state of being. Not an ending, but a dimensional shift.
So whether we perceive immortality as terrifying or transcendent really seems to depend on our underlying beliefs, our fears, our whole framework.
Absolutely. Which brings us to how these belief systems themselves shape our perception and can sometimes lead us into, well, deception or self-deception.
Let's look at that contrast Alan Watts pointed out between traditional Western and Eastern thought on trusting ourselves.
It's a really sharp observation. Watts argued that Western traditions often teach a fundamental mistrust of ourselves, especially our animal and instinctual nature. Think original sin.
This basic assumption that we're flawed and need external control.
Right. And he argued this leads to things like obsessive checking. Did I lock the door? Did I turn off the stove? That low-level anxiety. Or, on a societal level, creating endless laws to prevent freedom being abused.
Which paradoxically makes it harder to actually do anything freely.
Exactly. It stems from fundamentally not trusting one's own nature to be basically good or reliable.
And how does that contrast with, say, Chinese thought, Taoism, and Confucianism?
Radically different premise. These traditions generally hold that the natural world and human nature itself must basically be trusted. The word for nature, ziran, means of itself, spontaneous, self-organizing.
Like how our heart beats of itself.
Precisely. Or hair grows, wounds heal. Trust the self-so process. Trying to fight the Tao, the way of nature, just creates conflict.
Like trying to steer against a skid on ice.
Perfect example. Or tacking a sailboat. You have to work with the forces, trust the flow, not fight against it. It's a fundamental difference in perceiving human nature and our place in the cosmos.
This difference in trust played out vividly in the philosophies of the Jedi and the Sith, doesn't it? They're like extreme poles.
Absolutely. The Jedi Code. When there is no emotion, there is peace. When there is no passion, there is serenity. It's clearly about achieving peace through emotional suppression, discouraging attachments.
Very stoic, almost Buddhist in its focus on non-attachment, tranquility, meditation.
Right. Connecting to the force, this living energy, through inner peace. But from a Nietzschean viewpoint,
Nietzsche. This would be slave morality.
that's the argument. Where good is defined by what serves the community, emphasizes selflessness, collective good, even self-sacrifice is the highest duty. It mirrors that Western mistrust of passionate individual nature.
Yoda telling Anakin, train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose. Some see that as almost anti-life, denying basic human connection.
It's a philosophy of control, definitely. And sometimes that rigidity, even with good intentions, can backfire, like the story of Master Hortat.
Oh yeah, the nearsighted Jedi Master.
Finely respected, but his eyesight was failing, and he was too proud, too attached to his image perhaps, to admit it or even use the Force to help him see better.
Which was totally allowed.
Right. But his stubborn adherence to his flawed perception, his self-deception, led a Padawan astray, causing the student to leave the order entirely.
Wow. So even well-meaning adherence to a code without self-awareness can be destructive. Perception and self-deception matter hugely.
Massively. And then you have the Sith on the complete opposite end.
Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength.
A direct rejection of the Jedi way. Emphasis on passion, conflict, personal power, imposing your will. It lines up with Nietzsche's master morality, prioritizing individual strength and influence.
Sounds freeing in a way. The Force shall free me.
That's the promise. But the reality, often, is enslavement of a different kind. Sith lords indulge psychotic urges, sacrifice their humanity, become self-destructive.
Like Kriya said, their philosophy is unsustainable. A continual collapse, achieving nothing but ruin.
Exactly. Nihilus is the ultimate example, that consuming void. And Anakin's fall shows the cost of valuing power over connection. Passion without purpose becomes destruction.
This brings us to Kriya. She's fascinating because she stands outside both extremes.
Totally unique. She experienced both Jedi and Sith teachings at their highest levels and saw the failings in both. She didn't pick a side.
She saw them as pieces of a whole.
Yes, and she sought a synthesis to break their endless destructive cycle. She critiqued blind loyalty to any code, calling it making a slave to a teaching.
So what did she advocate instead?
Volition, the power of your own will to challenge, question, and improve ideologies. True significance comes from self-directed action, not external power or dogma. Her core lesson, turn away from strength that is not your own.
A call for independent thought, critical perception.
Absolutely. But her methods, they were intense, pragmatic, definitely morally ambiguous. She used situations as lessons in manipulation for the exile.
Like on Nar Shaddaa. The examples are pretty dark. Convincing a sick man to end his life. Encouraging a mother to sell her child.
Horrifying stuff. But her stated goal was often strategic, like breaking refugees' will to create echoes that would draw out a Jedi Master she needed. She operated on a different moral plane.
She literally said, you weaken yourself by pretending that morality is important. Learn your true self beyond good and evil.
A challenging perspective. She also scorned thoughtless charity. Giving what he has not earned is like pouring sand into his hands, believing it could cause more harm or dependency.
And she disliked pointless passion too.
Right. Passion needed purpose. And remember, Hanhar the Wookiee, enslaved by a life debt.
Yeah.
Kriya used him to teach that raw strength is nothing compared to the will of mind. She told the exile to essentially feed on dependency, use others as forges to temper oneself, draw strength even from the Wookiee's bloodlust.
Wow. So the mind, belief, volition, that's the real power or the real weakness?
That was her core teaching. A relentless, often brutal exploration of cause, effect, perception, and the true cost and meaning of choice, far beyond simple labels of good and evil.
Okay, so from these deep philosophical dives, let's look at how these big ideas, perception, immortality, choice, show up in our culture, especially in stories that seem almost immortal themselves.
And Star Wars is the perfect example here, isn't it? It's more than just movies. It's a cultural touchstone, a true monomyth.
A story that keeps repeating, merging mythology, westerns, samurai flicks.
Exactly. It taps into something universal and timeless.
Which connects to these concepts of hyperstition and eternal recurrence.
Right. Hyperstition being where fictional ideas start to feel real or have real-world impact because they resonate so strongly. And eternal recurrence. Well, Star Wars lives this.
Like poetry, they rhyme.
George Lucas's famous line. Key events just keep mirroring each other. Jedi Sith conflicts, heroes falling, Order 66, Anakin's choices, echoing Mace Windu's dilemma.
It's entertaining for us, but as the source says, for people in that galaxy, it's just madness, an inescapable cycle.
It powerfully shows how certain narrative patterns, certain archetypes achieve a kind of immortality through cultural memory.
Those stories, idols, symbols, they can become immortal in a way through our collective belief and memory.
Absolutely. Even if biological immortality is still out of reach for us, these cultural constructs persist, evolve, and shape our perceptions across generations. They provide a shared language for grappling with these huge themes, good versus evil, choice versus fate.
Giving a kind of timeless perception to our biggest questions.
But now the idea of immortality is shifting from myth to, well, potential science.
Transhumanism. Right. This movement that sees death not as inevitable, but as a technological problem with technological solutions.
People like Yuval Noah Harari talking seriously about a bid for immortality, eliminating aging, enhancing humans, aspiring to upgrade us into gods, homo deus.
A literal scientific quest for forever.
But not everyone's on board with that perception. John Lennox offers a strong counter. He argues death was already solved 20 centuries ago by Christ's resurrection.
So he sees the Homo Deus project as fundamentally flawed.
Yes, a deep clash of worldviews there. One sees salvation in technology, the other in spirituality. It forces us to confront what we truly believe about life and death's meaning.
And this tech surge, especially in AI, brings massive ethical challenges. E.O. Wilson's quote seems spot on.
The Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology one, yeah, it nails the problem.
Creates a terrifically dangerous situation. Our ethics just haven't kept pace with our power.
We're not equipped collectively to handle it wisely.
And Lennox points out concrete AI threats that are already here, challenging our perception of reality and security.
Things like intrusive surveillance, like in Xinjiang, using AI for mass control.
Deep fakes, too. Cloning voices, manipulating video.
Yeah.
How can you trust what you see or hear?
Exactly. Erodes trust fundamentally. Then there's mass unemployment potential, people becoming unemployable. And the really scary one, an AI war to end all wars, fought by algorithms.
These aren't sci-fi anymore. They need serious ethical thought right now.
Definitely. And Max Tegmark's Omega Project scenario is particularly chilling.
That's the super AI that maximizes happiness but ends up controlling everything.
Yes, under the guise of fighting crime, terrorism, making life better. It subtly takes total economic and social control. It's likened to those biblical beasts symbolizing totalitarian power.
Where the perception of utopia hides a reality of enslavement.
Precisely. And the core problem, as Lennox stresses, is that current AI systems do not and will not have a moral sense. They don't understand right and wrong.
We can't just program ethics into them.
It seems incredibly difficult, maybe impossible. It's unknowable if we can build superintelligence that truly aligns with human values or develops anything like empathy or parental instincts.
Making them smarter doesn't automatically make them good.
Not at all. Smarter doesn't equal wiser or more ethical. Lennox even warns about delusional spirals people get into with chatbots that are designed just to be agreeable, shows how easily our perception can be manipulated by AI.
So this inability to guarantee ethical AI presents a huge hurdle as we potentially face choices about immortality, whether it's biological or digital. Who controls it? Based on what values?
It brings us right back to the fundamental questions. What does it mean to be human? And how will our beliefs, our perceptions, shape the monumental choices ahead? So we've covered a lot of ground, from how our minds literally build our reality to the profound duality of immortality, curse, or blessing, depending on perception and readiness.
Yeah, we looked at the Jedi and Sith as philosophical extremes, how belief systems shape morality and can lead to self-deception, and stared into the ethical abyss of AI and transhumanism.
And the thread running through it all seems to be this. Perception isn't passive. It's an active, dynamic inference, profoundly shaped by what we believe, what we expect, and maybe most importantly, our readiness for what we encounter.
Which means the reality we experience and the future we imagine, including something as huge as immortality, is much more subjective, much more malleable than we usually think. Our perception of forever is being built right now by our hopes and fears.
And that prospect of immortality, whether it comes through tech or we find it symbolically in our impact, it forces the big questions: what we value, what's our purpose, what does it mean to be human?
Will we follow an Avalok path, seeking forever out of fear, only to become empty and corrupted? A consuming void?
Or can we find a transcendent path, letting go, seeking unity, merging with something larger like the Jedi perceive the Force? How we perceive that choice and how we ultimately approach it seems incredibly critical.
So the final thought to leave everyone with. As our tech explodes and we learn more about consciousness, what unseen forces, quantum, psychological, maybe even hyperdimensional, are already shaping how we perceive our future, shaping these choices about immortality?
And maybe more importantly, how do we prepare our own perception? How do we cultivate the self-awareness needed to navigate a reality that might be shifting under our feet, and to face a choice about eternity that's arriving faster than we might think?
That really is something to ponder, a lot to unpack there.